Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
On today's show, Tesla's Q2 record deliveries,
Chinese Model 3s in China.
the right-hand drive Model 3 orders open in Australia.
That and more next on episode 143 of Tesla Time News.
On Now You Know.
Brought to you, as always, by our amazing, wonderful Patreon supporters who support us every month, make this show possible. We couldn't do it without you.
And by our friends at the solar-powered hotel in Schaumburg, Illinois, the Fairfield Inn and Suites by Marriott. They have 2 Tesla charging stations plus 2 additional level 2 chargers, all powered by solar energy. And check out ecoware.us for new designs every week designed by our very own Bobby Briggs. We have 2 right here. Pretty cool. But we don't just have t-shirts, we also have backpacks, aprons, mugs, pillows, and much more. Everything that we make is carbon neutral for the whole life cycle of the product, and we even plant a tree in the Amazon rainforest for every order that is placed. That makes it carbon negative. And best of all, it helps support us here on Now You Know.
We're going to first talk about a coal company. That's kind of weird. We're usually talking about sustainable energy, but today we're talking about a coal company. Why are we talking about a coal company?
Well, there's some good news and some bad news. The good news is that this is a coal mining company that went bankrupt. So Cloud Peak Energy, which is a Wyoming-based coal mining corporation, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on May 10th. And in the bankruptcy documents, here's the bad news part, we found out that they have been giving contributions to leading think tanks that have attacked the link between burning of fossil fuels and climate change, as well as to several conservative advocacy groups that have attempted to undermine policies intended to shift the economy towards renewable energy.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's all bad news. At least we're actually finding this stuff out.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary that this could all happen, and the only reason we found out is because they went bankrupt.
Yeah, and these are groups that I don't think most of us know about. Like, we all have heard of, like, the Sierra Club, right? They, do wonderful work. But there's groups called, for instance, the Center for Consumer Freedom, which attack groups like the Sierra Club. So you might wonder, like, well, where do they get their money to do that? From coal companies.
So how many of these so-called, think tanks or whatever were they contributing to?
Well, some of the ones we found out about were the Montana Policy Institute, ALEC, Americans for Prosperity, Crossroads GPS, which is a super PAC that gives money to politicians and lobby groups to make sure that groups like the Sierra Club are debunked, Western Caucus Foundation.
Nothing in the names is like, the industrialists for coal power, or people who don't believe in climate change committee of thinkers. They're just called these random Americans for Prosperity.
Right.
Some of these just sound generally good. The Center for Consumer Freedom. I'm a consumer. I like freedom.
Right.
Great. And yet, no, these are people that are just lobbying Congress people to be like.
And here's the thing.
And they're getting tons of money.
Yeah, and the thing is, we don't know how much money they were giving. We just know that they were giving it.
From this one particular coal company that went bankrupt.
Right.
In this one particular place.
And it kind of shows you that if you get your power from coal, you are helping to fund it because you're paying your power bill, and that money goes to a coal plant, which then feeds money to these groups. So it's like you inadvertently, no choice for you, are funding this. It's awful.
So, but what can people do about this? If you don't like that all, the money that you're spending to buy the electricity that you need to live your life is funding these super PACs and think tanks that are basically going after science.
So in many places, you can choose to have your electricity come from other renewable sources. You and I both choose to have our electricity come from solar panels that are not even on our house. They're somewhere else. Like I have some on the house, but then we pay to have some outside of the house.
Right. Actually, I pay for wind.
Oh, cool.
So it was cheaper than the solar, so I was like, all right, well, wind is good. So, that's what I power my car with, what I power my life with.
Yeah, so a little hunting online, you can find sources, usually other than the ones you're paying for, that do a better job of renewable energy.
Right. The Massachusetts grid was already pretty clean, but going to 99% wind and 1% solar means that all of my energy is completely renewable.
Nice.
And I think that you can do that if you want to. If you're like, wow, I live in a place where there's a lot of coal, or I'm a person who has to pay for electricity. Wouldn't you feel better to, look at your kids and be like, oh, you know what? Don't worry about the light that's on. That's renewable energy.
Well, and now's a seriously good time to look at putting solar on your roof if you can. All right, some good news here is that the company Revel has added 1,000 new electric mopeds in New York City in the boroughs of Brooklyn and Queens. Now, they did a little trial run last year where they put 68 of these electric scooters around the city. It must have worked because they're deciding to put 1,000 of them.
So you said that they're putting them around the city. Are they just... They're just parking there, and people are looking at them, and they're going like, "Ooh, electric mopeds."
No, it's like Lime and Ride. You know how those electric scooters,
right?
Yeah, it's like Lime and Ride and Bird. Those electric scooters that you see popping up all over the place. You take out an app, and you can basically find a moped near you, go and blip it with your app. Take it out. It's $1 to start the ride. Then it's 25 cents for each minute after that. 10 cents when you pause for each minute.
Okay.
So let's think of an average ride, like a 10-mile ride through the city. That's probably going to cost you somewhere around less than $5.
That's really good.
Yeah.
The scooters are already pretty cheap, right? If you wanted to get on a scooter, but now you have a moped, which means that you have a lot more comfort.
Yep.
You can go a bit faster. These go up to 30 miles an hour.
Right. They could even go faster, but they limited them to 30.
I think that's
keep
smart.
them safe.
And, if you're buying groceries or whatever, is there room in the seat?
So underneath the seat, they've got helmets already in there so that you don't have to have your own helmet. You just pop it open, put your helmet on. There's room under the seat to put your groceries or whatever you just got. Yeah. Great way to get to work and back. So they're getting their scooters from NIU, N-I-U.
Not Neo.
Not Neo, right?
Okay.
It gets confusing. It's the NGT scooter. It's a pretty high-powered mid-drive scooter with a 4.2 kilowatt-hour battery.
Nice.
And yeah, it's pretty fast. And there's other companies, not just this. There's Scoot in San Francisco and Scooby in Pittsburgh.
Now, I think that these are actually going to be a little bit more positively received than the typical, kick scooters that have been littering U.S. cities for the past couple of years. I have to imagine if you're driving a moped, that you're going to be like, oh, I'm driving a moped, not just like, oh, it's like a toy scooter. Right. I'm going to go back to my 8-year-old self and just leave my scooter on the, on the driveway for my mom to run over.
But here's our thing. We ran some back of the envelope kind of calculations, and we figured out for about every hour that Revel rents this out during the day, and it can only be rented during daylight hours, they'll make about $7 million of revenue per year for these 1,000 scooters. So my question to you guys is, how many hours a day do you think the scooters are going to be utilized for? Is it 1 hour, which would be $7 million, or is it like 3 hours, which would be $21 million?
And another difference here between the scooters and these mopeds is that you can actually pull the batteries out of the mopeds.
Right.
So instead of having to have a guy who goes and picks up the scooters and charge them and then put the scooters back out, you just have a guy who's just swapping battery packs.
Yeah.
So which means that the scooters themselves are actually going to be able to be utilized for a lot longer periods of time, since they don't have to be charged. The batteries have to be charged.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you're in New York and you encounter these mopeds, please take some footage and tell us about it.
Yeah, film us a little story. We'd love to see it.
So there's now a third leaked email from Elon to his employees, and in this latest one, he says, while our demand is strong, we have a lot of vehicle deliveries to catch up to in order to have a successful quarter. Per my earlier email, if we execute well, Q2 will be an all-time record for Tesla vehicle deliveries and an awesome victory.
This email, if it's true, if the leak was correct, and if Elon was telling the truth in the email, which I believe that he would if it were an email from Elon, it would basically dispel any of this sort of FUD about their like lack of demand for the Model 3,
right,
which I don't understand where any of this FUD is coming from in terms of this lack of demand. They've sort of written this story, FUDsters, of like, okay, sure, we'll grant you that the Model 3 had 400,000 pre-orders, and there was a lot of hype, and there was a lot of hyped demand and pre-orders and excited, early adopters, but the regular people don't want this car. Only these crazy 400,000 people, and of those 400,000 people, lots of them dropped off the reservation list.
Well, I think it's because of the Q1 delivery snafu, and so they twisted the facts, and they didn't count the fact that, yes, they weren't delivered in Q1, but they were about to be delivered.
Right.
And they got to say, haha, look, you've had a dip in your sales.
And let's just talk about that again for those of you who might not know or remember. It's just a good little refresher. Q1, Tesla was trying to deliver in Europe and China for the Model 3. And this is the first time that they've had such high volume sales of cars overseas. So they had to ship them overseas, which means that there's this whole logistical problem of getting so many cars onto boats, off of boats, to the people that bought them. And they were swamped. The boats took a bit longer, I think, than they had anticipated, and getting them off the boats and to the customers took a lot longer. So at the end of the quarter, there were a lot of cars that were built but weren't delivered yet. They were on boats to be delivered. And there's a delay, right? Because if you make a car in the United States and you sell it within the United States, there's quite a lot of infrastructure to get the cars there. There's trains and trucks, whatever you need to get the cars to where they need to go and to sell them. And that's what they've been doing, and they had excellent delivery numbers in Q4. But then Q1 comes, and all of a sudden you have this delay where you're like, okay, we built the car, great, ship it. And it's on the boat, and it's on the boat, and it's going through the Panama Canal, and it's on the boat, and it's on the boat, and then it finally gets to the destination. They have to distribute it. So that, I think, is where a lot of this FUD comes from.
It was their window. Yeah, we talked about this on In Depth last week. The FUDsters saw a window where they could use a kind of crack in the armor, and they could say, aha, and they could twist that, and it's a lie. That's all it is. It's a lie to say that there's a problem with delivery numbers and demand. There isn't.
If this email is correct, and they have excellent delivery numbers, I don't understand how you could continue this false argument of, but their demand is waning. It's not.
And let's look at Q4 of 2018, which was Tesla's highest delivery so far. They had deliveries of 90,700 cars. So I would say put your mark right about that there, because that's probably what they're going to hit. So check this out, Jesse. This is a video of the Honda E. We talked about this a while back. And they are planning on having a camera instead of a rear view mirror.
We've seen this a lot, actually, with different concepts of certain vehicles.
Yeah, even the Model X was supposed to have it.
The Model X was supposed to have rear view cameras, and that was back in, 2015, 14? Yeah.
There's no technological reason why you can't. And in fact, Honda here says that there's a bunch of reasons to do it. They said it'll have reduced drag, so a 90% improvement over conventional mirrors, which would result in a 3.8% improvement for the entire vehicle, contributing towards the model's overall efficiency and range. And then they show in this video here quite clearly that there's times when, let's say it's raining out, where you have to look through a rainy window at a rainy mirror, and that's kind of distorted and hard to see. Whereas with this new camera system, you're looking inside the car at a screen with no rain in front of your mirror.
Basically, these would be designed to prevent water droplets from accumulating on the lens, and also would have a water repellent coating on the lens surfaces to deter any other residual water buildup. I think that this is brilliant. This is smart. And we've seen this sort of design a lot, but one thing that we haven't seen is a video actually really showing what that would look like. And I think that has been the stopping point for a lot of people. They go, different, bad, no. This is obviously regulators. It's not consumers that are demanding to keep their mirrors on. But I think that regulators are people, and so when they see different, no, we're not going to do that. This is a really good creation to show what it could potentially look like.
And until U.S. regulators say yes, no car company is even going to bother, because it's a huge market.
And I mean, the advantages here are pretty big. I mean, you can have a wider view, because I mean, right now with a mirror, you're literally just relying on physics to be able to see what's behind you. And then when you move your head, you see different things, which can be advantageous. But if you had just a wider angle camera that was showing you inside the car on a screen what was in your blind spot, you wouldn't have a blind spot anymore. There'd be no blind spot.
And software could begin to predict things about the cars behind you.
You could, right now, the only, warnings you get on your rearview mirror are maybe someone's in your blind spot. That's great. And you get the little objects in mirror are closer than they appear. That's been on mirrors for I don't know how long. And we haven't fixed that. That's I mean, that's like those signs for intersections that are like dangerous intersection. It's like, I mean, if you know that it's dangerous, maybe just fix it. So what they could do is, instead of saying, objects in this thing, maybe just tell the distance. That's 50 feet behind you, 20 meters behind you, whatever. And then it could constantly be changing. It could be saying like he's going 75 and you're going 63. He's going to catch up to you.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that they could do.
And I mean, why do you think they haven't? Because up until now, you were driving an ICE car, which you couldn't tell that efficiency difference. A 3.8% improvement for an ICE car is nothing because the energy is already being wasted in the engine.
Right.
Here with electric cars, every percentage matters.
Every percentage matters, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah. So CNBC says, according to Tesla employee sources, Tesla will be starting production of the refreshed Model S and Model X with a new interior in September.
So we've already actually seen a couple small improvements, or I say small, but made to the Model S and X. We have the more efficient motors.
Yep.
More powerful,
Yep.
also. And the adaptive suspension that's already been added to the Model S and X.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a huge difference already. But now, apparently, there's going to be a new interior, and it's going to look a lot like the interior of the Model 3.
Right. Now, the question is, are we going to see, obviously kind of a dip in sales as people wait for the refresh and then a big boost in September? Or are there so many people that are going to be upset by the Model 3 looking interior that we'll see a big kind of boost prior to the release because they want the old-fashioned Model S and Model X interior?
Right. Because, I mean, I think that there is some pushback on Model 3 interiors. It depends on whether there's going to be a binnacle, which, of course, is the sort of the speedometer right behind your steering wheel.
Yeah, I doubt it.
I think they might get rid of it. It would save them money to do so. I think that there will be pushback against that.
Yep.
A lot of people are like, oh, my God. Personally, I have a Model 3. It's not a big deal.
It's not. Well, here's the interesting thing to me. There are definitely people who like their cars the way they are. People drive, Mercurys and Lincolns and Buicks. You tend to see that those companies don't change the look of their cars that much. And their audience is pretty much aging out of their cars, let's say. But when the Model S and the Model X came along, they were wildly different than any luxury car we've seen. And people loved it. I mean, they bought into it. But we keep seeing pushback whenever there's change, right? Whenever the nose in the Model S changes, to the refresh, there's like 2 months of people like, I don't like it. And then everyone loves it. Right. So I do wonder if your only option coming up will be a refreshed Model S and X that looks like the interior of a Model 3, if you'll just be like, well, I didn't think I'd like it, but now I do.
I really do like the look of the interior of the Model 3. It is so clean. You have so much room on the dashboard. I think that there's a reason that they're actually moving to this different style. These cars are going to be driving themselves in a few years. What are you going to be doing, when the car is driving itself?
Exactly.
You're going to be sleeping. Maybe you're reading a book, or maybe you want to watch a movie.
Yep.
And if you want to watch a movie, you're going to need a screen.
Yeah.
And if the car has a screen in the right orientation, then you're just going to be able to watch a movie on the screen in your car.
That's a really good point. I think that when this day happens, everyone has an older Model S and X like I do, is going to be like, oh, I wish that I had the turned screen.
So I think that if you're on the fence, if you're like, I think I really do want the old one, just think about when the car can drive itself. Do you want to watch a movie in portrait mode, so you're going to be seeing like a little movie? Or do you want a big full-size screen? Like, I think that is going to be what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't have any evidence to back this up, other than the fact that, isn't it funny how the Model 3 has a landscape screen when the Model S and X don't?
So last week, Tesla opened pre-orders for Model 3 in China, which is only about 4 months away from the factory opening. And this could mean $10,000 to $20,000 cheaper Model 3s in China than import versions because there's no import tariff and local EV incentives are still in place. And so Tesla has just announced that there'll be deliveries of the Model 3 in China in 6 to 10 months.
Right. So these are Chinese Model 3s that are produced in the Chinese Shanghai Gigafactory. Apparently, they're going to be able to start producing Model 3s out of it. And this is huge, okay? Because now we're having Model 3s that are going to be the same price as BMW 3 Series and Mercedes C-Class.
Yep.
And same price in China, and you have Tesla, which is one of the best brands in China. They absolutely love Tesla. And now you can get one for a much reduced price. I mean, we're talking about $10,000 cheaper.
Well, and look what Tesla did in every other market where they competed head-to-head with BMW and Mercedes. They squashed them.
Yeah.
And the only reason they haven't done it in China yet is because of the numbers. They don't produce or deliver enough there. But the other
and the import tariffs and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, you just can't compete when your car is priced so much higher.
Right.
But I mean, take a look at this price here. So the US made Model 3 Standard Range Plus would be 377,000 RMB. The Chinese model, the same one, would be 328,000 RMB. And to give you that in dollars, that would be $47,500. So, I mean, quite a price difference.
Right.
And that's all going to change in about 6 months.
And and for people who are like, oh, but that's $10,000 less money that Tesla gets. No, this is money that's going to Chinese tariffs.
Exactly.
And money that they don't get to use for incentives. So the buyer gets to pay less. Tesla makes the same amount of money. It's a big win for Tesla.
Exactly.
And the consumer.
So there's some news out last week that JB Straubel exercised 15,000 options of stock. And a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, this means he's leaving the company.
15,000 options. So that's 15,000 stocks of Tesla stock?
Shares of stock, yeah.
Wow.
So $2.8 million in Tesla stock. But let's keep a few things in mind.
Yeah.
These were options that were planned to expire in 2022. So he had to use them sometime before 2022 or else they disappear.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So there's something he was going to have to sell no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, he put in his order because he has to with the SEC. He put in his order in about December saying, I will be selling in about 6 months. It's something he thought about months ago. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to point out that what was he thinking probably months ago about where Tesla stock price would be right about now?
So, I mean, I think that he was thinking about Autonomy Day.
Yep.
He knew that was going to be coming out. And I think that any rational, sane person who knew what was going to be in Autonomy Day would go, the stock's going to go gangbusters after Autonomy Day because, holy crap, we're going to put Uber and Lyft out of business. We're going to have this business model that no one else has. We have this technology that no one else is even close to achieving. And we're going to be presenting that to the news media, and they're just going to eat it up. Now, 15,000 options, that is just, it's $2.8 million. That's mind-boggling.
Yeah, but keep in mind that he still owns over 300,000 shares, which is worth over $55 million, and that's at today's depressed prices.
Oh, so I mean, this is like
at even quasi-normal prices, he'd have over $100 million of shares in the company.
This is like allowance money for him.
Yeah, well, I'm going to guess that A, he had to exercise them anyway. Mm-hmm. B, a nice house for a big CTO in California is easily millions of dollars. So this $2.8 million in stock that he just sold,
I think it's less than he was expecting.
I totally do. He's going to have to downgrade. So call your broker, JB. You're going to have to get something a little less. But I think that's probably what it was. And the other thing I want to conjecture, because there was a report from Electric that according to two sources that are working at the Palo Alto headquarters of Tesla, they said that that JB was kind of absent for most of the last 6 to 8 months, that he's only periodically appeared there. And so the conjecture was, well, he's barely ever here. Maybe he's leaving the company. I just want to put this out. If you're JB, who works just as hard as Elon does, and you've been working and working for years and years, at some point you're going to say, hey, is there a time I could take a few months off and just go relax and see the world and spend time with my family? I'm guessing he said, after the Model 3 is well into production and doing well, I'd like to take a few months off. I'm guessing that's kind of what he's doing. He has been around for the Q1 earnings call, so it's not like he was completely absent. And maybe
he has to be in the loop to be able to respond to questions at the earnings call.
Right. So, I mean, I personally doubt that he's like, I'm leaving. I think it's more like I'm a normal person and I need some time off.
Right. So, I mean, I hope JB, if you're watching the show, that you have had a nice vacation. But relaxed a little bit.
A lot of people will say, it's the timing though. Like, why did he do it now?
It's always the timing. I mean, when in Tesla's history could JB take a vacation and people not flip out about it?
Right.
At what point in Tesla's history could JB exercise some stock and not everyone just go like, oh my gosh.
Right. But again, it fits right into the Fudster's storyline.
Yes, of like, oh my gosh, everyone's jumping ship. Yeah, I mean, he has 300,000 shares in Tesla.
Yeah.
That he just wanted to like buy a nice little beach house somewhere, I guess, Oh.
All right, so I feel like we should call this story Really? Because that's the only thing that comes to mind when I think about it. So Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, he said this in Finland in May.
Steady reductions in sea ice are opening new passageways and new opportunities for trade. This could potentially slash the time it takes to travel between Asia and the West by as much as 20 days. Arctic sea lanes could come the 21st century Suez and Panama canals.
All right, so basically he's admitting that he knows climate change is real. It's melting the polar ice caps. But that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
We're going to get to Asia faster by boat.
It's a feature, not a glitch. Okay, wait.
Okay, but wait. Let's take Andrew Wheeler, who's the head of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. He said this in March.
The truth is that those who oppose U.S. fossil fuel production are actually taking the most environmentally preferable energy source off of the table for the rest of the world. This is a disservice to human health and the environment.
He said that. He said that basically fossil fuels is the best. If you want to protect the planet, that's what you should be selling. None of this renewable energy crap.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Where?
But wait a minute. There's more. Let's take one other U.S. agency.
Okay.
How about the Undersecretary of Energy, Mark Menendez?
Okay. Hopefully he knows what he's talking about.
He said, increasing export capacity from the Freeport LNG project is critical to spreading freedom gas throughout the world by giving America's allies a diverse and affordable source of clean energy. With the U.S. in another year of record-setting natural gas production, I am pleased that the Department of Energy is doing what it can to promote an efficient regulatory system that allows for molecules of U.S. freedom to be exported to the world. You're welcome, world. You just got some of our molecules of freedom. Freedom molecules.
Freedom gas. What is he talking about?
Would you like a side of freedom fries with that?
So they're rebranding natural gas.
Freedom gas.
Which, hang on, natural gas is already a rebranding of methane.
Yep.
Because it's just methane.
But freedom gas sounds even better.
Methane doesn't sound as good as natural gas.
Nope.
And apparently freedom gas sounds better than natural gas.
Spreading freedom.
This is the most asinine thing I think I have ever heard. What the actual you can't.
I don't even know where to begin. It's such a joke. That's why
freedom gas. What is this? 2002?
Apparently.
Freedom gas?
Yeah.
It doesn't even sound good.
No.
When we're exporting it, gas does not have a good does not have a good connotation to it.
Take a big whiff of that freedom gas.
What the and it is methane, which is farts.
Right.
So we're just saying have some of our fart gas that we're calling freedom gas.
Yeah.
And and these aren't just some crazy people that you happen to bump into a Walmart. These are people in the United States government.
Part of your statement was true. I do believe they're crazy people, but no, you probably didn't bump into them at Walmart.
It's not even good branding. I could come up with the better branding for your stupid natural gas. But I mean, to call it freedom gas. And can we talk about the shipping? Yeah. The polar shipping. It's like, now that there's none of this ice here.
It's a way to put a good spin on global climate change. Just, hey, some good news is shipping will be easier.
It's like, well, all of your cities are flooded, but the good news is you can get crap from China 20 days faster.
Yay.
I mean, yeah, anyone could just sort of sit back and be like, well, let's take a look at the benefits of climate change. Sure, I'm sure that there's going to be trillions of dollars in economic losses and people are going to have to flee their homes from rising sea levels.
But boat builders are going to do quite well.
Yeah. Think of all the gondola drivers. Like, oh, do you want to see the city of Paris in a gondola? Now you can. Is that what we're going to do now? Is just be like, well.
You're welcome, Europe.
Why?
I know.
Why are they here? Why are they talking such absolute rubbish?
All right, well, this one's probably going to make you mad too, Jesse.
Okay.
A Santa Barbara mother is suing Tesla after she says her toddler got into the driver's seat of her Model X, put the car into gear, and pinned her against the wall. So, I mean, that's horrible. We don't want to see anyone hurt by a car. But she's suing, saying that her 2-year-old son ran back toward the car, hopped into the driver's seat, was somehow able to put it into drive, and pinned her. Now, I just want to point out that if you're going to sue Tesla for this, you might as well go ahead and sue every car manufacturer for this, because pretty much every car nowadays has what?
A button.
A button, a start button.
That's true.
Yeah. It's not like in the days of when I was a kid, when it was like put a key in and turn it, which I don't think a 2-year-old could easily do. Maybe they could. But in a Tesla, you have to put your foot on the brake and then put your car into drive with a lever. In many cars, though, in ICE cars, you have to put your foot on the brake and then hit a button, which a 2-year-old could do as well. And then the car could lurch forward as well. So the second part is this accident happened on December 27th, 2018. About 4 months before that, in August of 2018, Tesla came out with a feature. Do you remember what that feature was?
There have been a dog mode. There's so many features.
This was pin to drive. Do you remember that one? Do you know what that does?
So that is it's an added layer of security to your car. Basically, not only do you need to have the fob or your phone to start to drive the car, you also have to type in a pin.
Yeah, 4-digit pin.
To start it.
Which I'm going to guess, unless he's just a superbly smart 2-year-old, is not going to be able to put his foot on the brake, put the car into drive, and type in the 4-digit pin. So this is the only...
Before you can rip him out of the car and say, Jimmy, what the heck are you doing?
Right. So this is the only car company in the world...
With this feature. There's no other car that has pin to drive.
And if she had just turned on pin to drive, she would not have been pinned against the wall.
Now,
pun intended.
Now,
there.
I would argue that is sort of a non-obvious use of pin to drive. Most of the time when I'm thinking of pin to drive, I'm thinking of criminals getting in my car, not my 2-year-old toddler son.
But when you do have kids, it's a great reason to use that feature. Yes, it's probably made for criminals, but it can be used for kids
or criminal
or
children.
dogs. I mean, maybe you leave your dog in the car, and possibly your dog could crawl in to the driver's area, put his hind foot on the brake, and then reach up with the paw and turn to drive.
Well, I mean, and also you'd need either the fob or the phone somewhere in the car to also have that happen.
Right.
So, and that's the other question, where was your fob or where was your phone? I think,
Well, she was right in front of the car. So.
Sure. I'm just saying, there are a lot of features in these Teslas. I don't think enough people know about it. And I think that's one aspect where Tesla could do a little bit better job is when you're picking up the car.
Yeah.
They say, let me teach you all of the features. Let me show you dog mode.
Or maybe there could be YouTubers out there who could tell you about this. Here's the thing, though. I really do suggest if you have a Tesla, turn that feature on. I know it takes an extra second when you get in the car to go, but there's going to be so many times when you probably aren't even going to think about this feature. When you pull in at a gas station real quick because you have to go to the bathroom, and that could be a moment someone could steal your car. Or a little kid could jump in the car and hit drive and do something. Right. So it's turn that on. You'll never have to worry about your car getting stolen.
And this is a bizarre, rare edge case where I don't think most 2-year-olds could get a Tesla to go into drive.
Right.
Because, again, you do need to hit the brake.
Right.
Which that's too, that's...
But that's what every car requires. So I just don't see why Tesla's being singled out. So this picture here is from Derek's new Raven Model S. David and Eric, they have a great YouTube channel, and they just got themselves a Model S with Tesla's new adaptive suspension. And so they looked in here right through where the tire would be, and you can see that little thing circled there. It's part of the active suspension system. And look at this from Maxwell Technologies' website. This is one of the technologies they've been working on, and something no one really covered when Tesla was buying the company, because that we thought they're buying dry electrodes and ultracapacitors. We didn't really think about this. What is that?
That is an adaptive suspension unit from Maxwell Technologies that uses ultracapacitors to kind of take the energy of the sort of the shock of driving over a bump,
right,
and turn it into electrical energy, which it can then store in this ultracapacitor,
and then use to jack the car back up, over and over, up and down, up and down. The funny thing is, Maxwell Technology acquisition just took place, and the cars with this adaptive technology are just being launched. Is it possible that one of the reasons Tesla bought this company was to get this technology?
It could be. I mean, part of me hopes that they're also using ultracapacitors for actual range and regen and using dry cell electrodes to get hopefully better batteries.
Well, I think we need Rich Rebuilds to get in there, find one of these cars, and rip that thing out and see if there's an ultracapacitor in there.
Yeah. I mean, not hopefully it's been crashed, but don't just take someone's car apart, Rich. Wait till it's crashed or whatever, and then use your celebrity to basically get it for free.
And your butter knife. Some big news if you live in Hong Kong, Japan, New Zealand, or Australia, or Ireland, or Macau. You will soon be getting your right-hand drive Model 3. According to Tesla, they're opening up the orders now for those countries.
Yeah, so there's only 2 versions available of the Model 3 in those countries. There's the Model 3 Standard Range Plus, so that's the 240 range Model 3, and the Model 3 Performance.
So we've shared with you a petition a couple weeks ago that you can sign to tell regulators in Europe that the new interpretations of the driving regulations in Europe is absurd.
Now, I don't live in Europe, and so I have autopilot, and it's great, and it works great. So what's wrong with Europe? What's wrong?
Well, so recently, Tesla's had to roll back some of the features in their AP, basically nerfing the features. For instance, let's just take this one. You're on AP driving along on a highway, and there's like a curve in the highway. And if the curve is too tight, AP will automatically drop you out of autopilot. Warning, you're out of autopilot now.
Mid-curve.
Like, yeah, as soon as you enter the curve. How would that, that sounds nice, doesn't it?
That sounds bad. That sounds terrifying. Yeah, that doesn't help.
It's not making driving safer. In fact, it's doing the opposite, right? It's the equivalent of if we, go back to your 16-year-old as the driver. It's like, okay, we're hitting a curve. I'm going to take over now. Don't learn how to do this.
What? Wait, what?
Right,
okay,
so,
but wait, are these new regulations?
No, so that's the thing. These have been regulations that have been in place for a while. It's the interpretation of them. Because don't forget, when you write a regulation about cars, most people weren't thinking about autonomous cars or autopilot cars.
Okay.
So they wrote regulations to deal with regular cars.
Okay.
So it's up to interpretation. And the problem is some of the people on these committees that are interpreting these rules used to work for companies like Daimler, which are competitors of Tesla. So that's what I'm upset about is they're not only are they interpreting things wrong, they're doing it probably on purpose to give Tesla like a kick in the, let's make it worse to drive a car.
Because then basically, if you tomorrow bought a Model S in, say, Germany, and you were like, great, autopilot, I can't wait to use it. And then you're like, this sucks.
Right.
You'd be like, Tesla, this sucks. Why did everyone say that this autopilot thing was great? This is terrible.
And let's talk about how autopilot works. Autopilot is a fleet learning system, right? So what you're driving today could actually get better tomorrow. But it can't get better tomorrow if every time it encounters something, it's like, oh, got to get out of autopilot now. Can't learn how to drive around curves. So that means it'll never get good at driving around curves.
Right. Well, you just don't have the data for Europe. And now you would only have the data for China and
US,
America and Australia.
And it's totally different in different places.
So, but I mean, what that could actually mean is that in the future, you'd be shooting yourself in the foot because once you have fully, autonomous driving cars, maybe they wouldn't work in Europe because they have different curves or something.
But what if they're going to do this? Keep the regulations really crappy for Tesla for the next few years. And then when Daimler and BMW and all those companies catch up, then they're like, oh, we'll change the regulations now.
Right. So this is where democracy kind of should kick in. We have a link down below to a petition, which you can sign to basically tell these either oblivious or self-interested regulation committee members to back the hell off.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. We should not be having anything kick out of autopilot around a curve if it doesn't have to.
All right, it's time for the lightning round.
There we go. All right. So according to Electric and CNBC, Tesla is planning to make Model Y at Fremont.
We've reported this is probably going to happen, but according to these sources, it is going to happen. And also what's going to happen is Tesla's going to combine the Model X and the Model S lines to make room for the Model Y. So we kind of know this is true because tours kind of stopped happening. And then people got mad because they had tours booked. And so Elon was like, oh, well, you can keep doing tours, but it'll be in a smaller part of the factory. But what's surprising to me is that the Model X and the Model S only share about 30% of the same parts. They're two pretty much completely different cars other than the powertrain. So to build them on the same line seems really hard.
I think at a certain point they had been entering the same line sort of for some of the finishing touches. But yeah, I think that this does seem extremely hard, and it does beg the question as to what exactly the Lathrop facility is doing. They keep saying that it's a parts and distribution center, but I just don't
any of you
believe
guys
it.
who live near Lathrop, California,
Yeah.
please send us some footage, some photos. Don't do anything illegal or anything, but like we need to know.
Investigate. Be an investigative
Exactly.
journalist. This is your opportunity. We are on the other side of the country. We can't just go asking people, "Hey, what do you do at the Lathrop facility?" And they, Just find out.
Is it a distribution plant?
Is
it
it
a
really?
factory?
Could it really be distribution?
Is it a giant room for Elon and the team to just play paintball? I mean, who knows? You got to find out.
It's a spaceship. It's a big alien spaceship that they're building.
So Jesse, what does e-tron mean in French?
The Audi e-tron, right?
No. But the word e-tron, what does it mean in French? You ever take French?
I took it for 2 months.
Oh, did you learn the word e-tron?
No, I learned one phrase.
Okay.
Le porte le jupe, which means I'm wearing a skirt. Not very helpful for me, but it's the one thing that I remembered. What does e-tron mean in French? It means turd or or pile of and yet Audi went with that.
You're a German company. The country next to your country is called France, and you don't think anyone in the company when they're coming, because when you name a car line, it's not something you're like, hey Bob, what should we name it?
I don't know, e-tron. Let's go with that.
Let's go.
Sweet.
It's usually like meetings and more meetings and charts and right.
Were they just not expecting to sell any in France?
You remember you were telling me the story about how when they were coming out with the game Pac-Man, it was originally going to be called Puck-Man.
Which makes a lot more sense, right? Because he's a little
right.
puck.
I never understood why it was called Pac-Man. Why is it? Why
They changed it because you could scratch off part of the P in Puck-Man, and it would become F***Man. Which they didn't want, so they changed it to Pac-Man. Why wouldn't you do this with the e-tron? Why wouldn't you come up with a different name? Because it's not just like this is one of their car lines. All of their electric cars are going to be called e-tron.
Right.
And also, I just want to apologize to all of our French viewers for swearing on the show so frequently. Right. We're talking about the e-tron so much. Now, I know that that's a terrible pronunciation of e-tron, but I'm sorry.
So we say this every year on the show. The price of solar and wind power is going down. Here's a chart to prove it. I mean, look at this. Concentrated solar power went down 26% this year. Regular solar power went down 13%. Onshore wind went down 13%. Hydro went down 12%. It's just amazing how fast the price of things is dropping in the renewable energy sector. So when we were in London, we wanted to ride on a double-decker electric bus. They don't exist yet in London. But Hyundai has just announced that they're coming out with a double-decker electric bus. This would be a 70-passenger. That means 59 on the lower section, 11 on the upper section, with 384 kilowatt hours of water-cooled battery and a 300-kilometer or 186-mile range. And it can be fully recharged in just 72 minutes.
Nice. It has rear wheel steering, which works in conjunction with the front axle. So you'd be able to, I guess, make tighter turns.
And BYD has already launched the world's largest double-decker fleet of electric buses in Jian, China earlier this year. So this just popped up on the Tesla website the other day. They said starting today, HomeLink will be removed from Model 3 premium interior cars in North America. With the change, all Model 3 cars will no longer be equipped with HomeLink. Model 3 customers interested in upgrading to HomeLink can purchase on our Tesla shop here. Upon purchasing, this upgrade requires installation from service. So it's now a $300 aftermarket product that requires installation. Now, a lot of people have said like, oh, this just proves that Tesla's going out of business. They have to cut costs at every place.
What is HomeLink?
It's that radio-controlled thing that opens your garage door.
I don't have a garage, so I don't
need it.
HomeLink. Okay.
But you have it in your car. Why put something into a car over and over again that only a small percentage of people need? And so for people in cities, for people who don't even use it, for people who don't have garages, I mean, I have a garage and I don't have HomeLink, so I don't need it. You're spending money on something you don't need.
Right.
Check this out, Jesse. Look at this. This is a camouflaged mini electric from BMW.
Awesome.
And
All
it's
right.
pulling a 150-ton Boeing 777 plane.
That's awesome. Well, I want one.
Oh, yeah, you can't have one yet.
Why not?
Oh, it's not out yet. It'll be coming out in China and the UK sometime this year, but they haven't announced that yet.
Okay. How much will it cost?
I don't know. They haven't announced the price yet.
Well, what are the specs?
We don't know. It can pull a plane.
That's not really specs. That's just...
Wasn't that what you need to know to make your purchase?
That's just a feat. That's just a thing that it can do. I mean, most electric cars can. I mean, the Model X pulled a plane.
Yeah, they pulled the 787 Dreamliner. Basically, I mean, it's on wheels, right? So just keep this in mind, people. When you see a car pulling a plane, that's because electric cars have a lot of torque. And as long as you don't need to pull it really fast, you can pretty much get anything to move.
Yeah. Right. It wasn't a giant, like, granite block. They weren't building the pyramids with that. Do we have any ideas what the specs are going to look like?
Oh, well, we do know about the drivetrain.
Okay.
They're pretty much using the i3 drivetrain.
i3 came out in 2013.
Yeah. So the Berkeley police say that Sentry Mode helped them arrest a convicted criminal who was out on parole. So the Berkeley police used some footage from Sentry Mode that was sent to them by a Tesla owner who was the victim of car burglary. So, he got broken into, sent the footage to the police. They were able to zoom in on one of the frames, see the guy's face, and find out that, whoa, this guy's a convicted rapist who's out on parole. And in fact, he's got an ankle bracelet. Now, if you're in other parts of the world, you may not know what an ankle bracelet is.
It's just like a bracelet. It's just jewelry. Why is that?
It's not a fashion statement. It's for when you're on parole, when you're out of prison, but you're still not completely free. They put an ankle bracelet on you to be able to track your movements. It's a GPS tracker. And what's even more awesome?
What?
Is that now that we've got a really cool person running the Tesla Twitter,
yeah,
we get awesome tweets like this one.
Guys, seriously, if you try to steal a Tesla, you're going to have a bad time. You'll especially have a bad time if you're already wearing a GPS ankle monitor. Super funny.
I just want to say, Elon, great job hiring whoever is doing the Twitter account. All right, it's time for our video contributor story, and I want to do a plug here. If you think you have any kind of inkling of journalism in you and you have an idea of a story, contact us at zach@nowyouknowchannel.com. Let me know, and you'll be probably making a video contributor story like this.
Hello, Zach and Jesse. This is Haushat from Darmstadt, Germany, and today we are having the 5th day of electric mobility. And today I'm here with
Martin Hund.
So let's get to know what motivated you to switch to an electric car.
Oh, my main motivation was that I promised to my kids that when I sold my last vehicle, I will never have a traditional engine anymore after these scandals which we had here, and I was afraid of disturbing the future of my kids in driving these old-fashioned cars. And the second thing was, from my point of view, that I did not any longer want to drive cars where I have to work while driving, and the fun came back.
How did you get to know about Tesla itself?
A colleague of mine was driving a Tesla already some years ago, and he convinced me, or he showed me his car, and I was really convinced that this might be the future. And on the other side, I'm coming from the software industry, and I recognized very early that a Tesla is not a car built by a car manufacturer, but a car built by software engineers. And this took my view onto this car very early, because I was following them in YouTube videos and all they have published in the last years, the way how they are designing and engineering the cars. It was interesting for me also as an engineer.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And let's make this planet great again.
Absolutely.
So that's it from me from Darmstadt, Germany, and make sure to keep up the great work. And as always, now you know. Back to Zach and Jesse.
Thank you so much, Harshad. That was a great video.
Yeah, I feel really happy now. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that. All right, it's time for our Patreon bonus stories. We're going to head on over to Patreon right now. Actually, we're not. We're going to sit right here. We're going to report some stories, but they're only viewable by the people that support this channel for as little as $1 a month.
I highly recommend it. There's so many people on there. They're all really wonderful, nice people. We've got our Discord. We've got there's all sorts of wonderful stuff. Check out our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/nowyouknowchannel.
Yeah, we'll see you there. All right, we're back from our Patreon bonus stories. That was a long one, a fun one.
Yes.
It's time for our Patreon shout-outs. Who do we got this week, Jess?
We have Rob Crawford,
Michael Mathers,
Carlos Calvo,
Andrei V. Gochev,
Random Danish Guy,
Peter C. Kravansky,
Hiai Eckringer,
Ryan Kraus,
Simon Quavang, Manuel
Zanini,
George O'Connor,
and David Hackos.
Thank you so much for supporting us. This show does not happen without these Patreon supporters. Nope. Okay? Brent and Bobby would not be able to edit this if they were not getting paid. We wouldn't be able to be like, even if we loved doing the show, which we do love doing the show, we would finish recording the show and then we would have no editors to edit the show. And you'd get this 3-hour long, full of arguments and things where I'm saying the wrong thing over and over again, where I'm like, today in the Floridian, this is what you don't have to see. right? Because of our patrons, they're able to pay for editors, and the more patrons we have, the more things we're actually able to do.
That's right.
So thank you so much to our patrons. Let's get on to tweet of the week.
All right, Elon's tweet of the week. His first one here is someone who tweeted out like this very false, fuddy thing where Elon makes more than other highest paid CEOs. And so Tesla Forever Man posted this, and Elon said, I paid most of my Tesla-related expenses too. Tesla last year was actually net negative compensation for me. He lost money working for the company 80 hours a week. He went to work every day.
He went to work every day. He made minimum wage.
Yep.
And then he donated that money to charity. And then he paid all of his expenses.
Yeah, and how about this one? This is from Tesla Unity. The misinformation people spread is out of control. And Elon said, yeah, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt propaganda campaign being pushed by those betting against Tesla has reached new heights. How is it possible that it's reached new heights? Because we've been covering this for 3 years, and every time I think, well, we're a new height.
It's been continually growing. I mean, at the very beginning, the stories coming out about Tesla were like, oh, isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how are they making a car? Wow, that's amazing. No one seemed to care. They were like, oh, it's not going to amount to anything, blah, blah, blah. Then Tesla starts doing amazing things, and the stories are just like, well, they're going to fail. They're going to fail. It's not working! They can't do it! It's like the boy who cried wolf, louder and louder and louder and louder. When are we going to be like, Timmy, calm down. Relax. You're wrong. The wolf is not coming.
No, but you know, it's just like the boy who cried wolf. Because at some point, the wolf is going to come and eat all their businesses. And when they yell and scream about it, we're going to be like, I don't hear you.
I don't it doesn't make any sense. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know.
I'm glad that Elon actually was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he
voiced it.
He voiced the FUD.
All right, it's time for community mail time. So we got our friend Manuel from Switzerland, and he showed us this picture here of his electric car from May 2014 to May 2018. And now, this year, he got
a new Model 3.
And what's cool is he says, keep up your great work. We are also trying to spread the word and convince as many people to switch to sustainable future. Have a great day. Yes, you have a great day too. That's freaking awesome.
That's super great.
All right, it's time for our on-air question of the week. Who do we have this week, Jesse?
We have Will. All right, so what's your question this week, Will?
So with the recent email leak that Elon put out that we saw all over the media about they're possibly going to have a record quarter for deliveries, but may not be profitable, does this really indicate that Tesla is ironing out their logistics off this roller coaster ride that we've seen them endure for the last 4 or 5 months? And what do you think they're going to be able to do going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually think that this email is how Elon kind of gets the troops rallied. And I feel like he knows that there are going to be some hiccups in the delivery systems. And so this is his way of kind of being like, come on, guys, let's get organized here.
Right.
It seems like he always has to be present in order to fix problems. And because we've seen this many times before, like in Europe, he had to actually show up and help them figure out how to do it. So I'm hoping that they've ironed out some of those difficulties, and that the number of deliveries going to new places in the coming quarters won't be as high. You know, if you're going to Australia, Japan, that those numbers will be kind of more manageable numbers. But I kind of just want to prepare everybody. I feel like there's still going to be more delivery hiccups.
I would argue slightly differently. I think that, obviously a lot of cars were on ships at the end of Q1, which means that they arrived Q2. Obviously, there's probably going to still be cars on ships in Q2, but they're offset by the cars that were on ships in Q1. You know, as we talked about in our in-depth many weeks ago about, just that there was delivery hiccups for Q1. I think everything's going to be stabilized. And since they had already, been ramping really high in terms of production numbers, I think that their deliveries are going to be around or better than Q4.
Yeah, my problem is that Tesla they're not geared up for deliveries. They're not a car company that has this big distribution network. And the last times what we saw is they had to ask for volunteers, right, to come in from the accounting departments and the marketing departments to help out. Not a great way to deliver cars, because I would argue handing someone their car is not the only thing you need to do.
Right.
You need to make sure there's no defects and minor scratches that took place in transit, and you need to educate them. We talked about stories this week of people that weren't well educated on what their cars could and couldn't do, and this is something they're pretty weak at. So I don't know what he's done to prepare for this. We'll have to find out.
Well, I mean, for Q2, this has already been happening,
Right.
You know, so I think that there's not too much worry, at least for Q2 numbers for Australia, Japan, all these new places that they're going to be offering the cars because they're not shipping them this quarter. So I think it's mostly just Europe and China that they've been shipping to. I think that we might see a slowdown in China because now Chinese are actually able to buy cars built in China
Soon.
soon. And I think that no one would pay a premium now to get the same car that they could get in 6 to 10 months for a much cheaper price.
Right.
I think overall we're going to see excellent delivery numbers. It is just sort of a question of profitability at this point.
How exciting would it be, though, if they could have an all-time record delivery? That would help squash some of this FUD.
Right, because I mean the story, the prevailing FUD story is that their demand is just there's no more demand. It's a wishful story on the FUDsters' part because they're able to sell this story of like there was demand and we knew that there were 400,000 orders, but now we don't know, and so they must be all gone because they sold a bunch of cars and people. We wrote other FUD stories that said that people were dropping out of the reservation lists and stuff, all to sort of build on what I would consider to be a lie. It doesn't make any sense for demand to be disappearing. I mean, we're seeing people buy cars at a much higher price point than they would usually feel comfortable buying because they know they're going to get that gas savings. They know that they are going to get some form of tax credit, or they just want it so darn much.
Right.
I think that towards the demand side of it, I don't think there's really much of a question, as you guys pointed out, because people want the car. I mean, with the features it has, with the not just the savings and not just the tax breaks involved, but just the amount of technology and really the cool factor behind it. That's why people want it. I mean, if you compare it to like a Chevy Bolt or the I-Pace, I mean, Tesla's light years ahead of them in many ways. And I think that's what's really grabbing people's attention. And plus, as more owners get the vehicle, as you guys have pointed out in the past, the car owners become the salespeople for Tesla, and it drives up the demand even more.
Great question.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much, Will.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, it's time for good news, bad news. What do you want first?
I can't take any bad news this week. No bad news. I don't want any bad news. You got bad news? No.
Okay.
I'll take your good news. That's it. No more bad news, at least for this week.
Okay.
Because the bad news has been like, impending doom and death, and the good news is like, oh, there's a flower. It's like not even remotely close. So what's the good news?
So the good news is that the town of Balleen, which is 450 people living in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada, is working to get their entire community to be powered by green energy in just 3 years. They want to have 200 solar panels, a wind turbine, and a micro hydro turbine at a local creek up and running next year, along with more EV chargers. So if anyone lives near this town, please visit next year and let us know how it's going.
That's awesome.
Or maybe you live in the town.
Yeah,
I just figure the chances are low, but
I don't know.
I know
maybe
it's not,
we're spreading the message to them.
Yeah, I know it's not like big news, but it's good news.
That's good news. And I wish that there were more communities that would come together as a community and be like, hey, we got this creek. We got all this wind. We got all this sun.
Exactly.
Let's combine it all. We'll all be the better for it.
Exactly. Monetarily and environmentally.
Yeah.
All right. It's time for Supercharger reviews. Remember that you can go out there and shoot your videos of destination chargers and superchargers.
Right.
And you can go to our website where we've got a Supercharger review page. If there's a little green icon next to the Supercharger, that means there's a video of it, which is what you guys are making.
Right. So if you're planning your trips and you're like, I don't know what's at this Supercharger, somebody might have covered it.
Yeah. And if they didn't, you go do it.
Right.
All right,
and you might be, going to a destination charger and be like, that place looks really cool.
Exactly.
Instead of hitting that supercharger, we're going to stay there for the night.
Little tip, if you are the owner of a business with a destination charger, shoot your own video.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what we got this week.
Hey, Zach and Jesse, this is Vlad with Check the Tech reporting for Now You Know. I'm here at the Downey Stonewood Street Supercharger station. It has about 12 stalls, and they max out at 72 kilowatts each, so I think they're similar to the Urban Supercharger design. Anyways, I give this supercharger station a rating of 10 out of 10, and that's because we're right here at a mall, so there are a ton of shops, places to eat after you park and charge your car. To my right, there are a couple motels. To my left, there's a DoubleTree Inn hotel and even more places to eat, and they're all within walking distance.
Hey, Zach and Jesse. Sean from Las Vegas here to review the brand new 6-stall urban supercharger at Rampart Boulevard on the corner of Rampart and Alta, down here in the Tivoli Village parking garage, level P1, row P. 4 behind me, 2 over on the side over here. A really great location due to all the small restaurants and shops that are here at Tivoli Village, and you're only a 10-minute walk from any of the major chains that you might want to get to. Feeling a little bit lucky, you can go 10 minutes in the other direction to a casino that also has some really great restaurants. This is a little bit of a weird supercharger though, not because of those amenities, but because of all of the other Tesla charging options right here in this same area. In fact, just above me at street level, we have a brand new Supercharger 2-stall. I'm gonna go check that out in just a minute. It is separate on the map, so you'll see 2 pins right on top of each other currently in the Tesla app. And on the same parking garage level, just behind me, all the way down at the other end, the existing destination chargers that are here at Tivoli Village as well. I'm gonna go check those out and let you know. This location here for our brand new urban superchargers, given the amenities and given all of the charging options, I would give it a 10 out of 10, but there is a little bit of a walk to some of those stores, so we're gonna give this one an 8 out of 10. Now you know.
All right, so we're here at the Roanoke Island Inn, where there is a Tesla charger. There's just one, and it's in a parking spot. On the website, it does say that you have to call ahead, which makes sense because there's currently a vehicle, not a electric vehicle, that is parked in the spot. But, so you've got kind of a covering for your spot. It's about the width of trying to not get this guy's license plate in there, but it's the width of one car, so it's just one parking spot, and it is right up against the gate to the inn. So this is the Roanoke Island Inn. It's actually very quaint. Highly recommend you guys stay there if you ever have the chance. So this covering goes all the way back. We're on Fernando Street, which is a one-way. And there is some street parking over across the street. We've got downtown Mania right there with easy access to a park and restaurants, food, easily within a 5-minute walk. And if you need to park because you did not call ahead, and looks like there's some street parking here too. So the Roanoke Island Inn reception is right where that sign is. There is an entrance through a brick walkway, and then you'll get to make a left into reception, and this is the inn.
Thank you, guys.
Fantastic.
You guys rock.
Super rock.
Yes.
Great.
All right, what do we got for new superchargers this week?
We have the 6-stall urban supercharger in Philadelphia at East Market in Pennsylvania.
We got the 2-stall urban in Bellevue, Washington.
The 2-stall supercharger in Las Vegas at Alta Drive, Nevada.
We got the 6-stall at Kill Devil's Hill in North Carolina. And now, Jesse, we were there on our Key West, Florida trip. There wasn't a supercharger at the moment, but it's way out at Nag's Head. We remember Kitty Hawk and all that?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Right
I don't remember Kill Devil's Hill. That's a pretty
intense.
Okay.
But
there's a supercharger there. That's great. Number 453 in Europe, the 12-stall at Lærdal, Norway.
And number 652 in the USA, number 1546 in the world is the 8-stall urban at Mission, Kansas. It is time for the Patreon giveaway. So the winner this week will be getting an EcoWare t-shirt. And if you don't win, you can go check out ecoware.us and help support the show by buying any of these many products that are available. Don't forget, we carbon offset the manufacturing, the product life cycle, and the shipping of every product. We even plant a tree for every order, so your purchase is carbon negative.
The winner this week is Michael Shend.
Michael Shend, congratulations. You are our winner. And remember, to get your name into this bucket of fun, you for every $1 that you give us on Patreon, you get another chance to win. All right, so you made it to the end of the show. How many of you just skipped through the show to get to the end of the show?
Yeah, that's where all the good, that's all the good information is.
Yeah. Sometimes there is. Sometimes there's little sneaky things
we put secrets in here. So
Yeah.
if you don't watch till the end, you're missing out.
That's right.
That's not to like
get you to watch.
That's not to get you to watch the whole thing. I don't really care. You know, I want you to see the
care.
news. But I'm just saying, like, it's a good place to put all the secret bits because not a lot of people see it.
And, every week we update, I don't know how it's done electronically or something. I'd have to talk to Brent and Bobby how it's done, but they update the list of the Patreons that you're seeing fly by here. So it's updated. So anyone who gives $5 or more is part of the end credits because they deserve to be here. They support the show.
And, if you're watching to the end of the show and you're not a patron, I would just, I don't want to, I'm not asking for money. I'm just saying we really try to make it worthwhile to become a patron. It does help us tremendously to make this show happen. As we talked about earlier, just to pay for editors to edit the show, they come in at 4:00 in the morning every Monday. You're watching this on Monday. It was shot yesterday.
Right.
We shot this yesterday because we need the news to be as current as possible.
Right.
And, you got to film it and you got to edit it. You got to do both of those things. You can't just do one or the other. So we try and squeeze it in as tight as possible. And Brent and Bobby do come in at 4:00 in the morning every Monday. You think that your Monday is bad.
No, I know.
Everyone's like, oh, Mondays are so great because of Tesla Time News. It's not great for Brent and Bobby.
How do you enjoy the weekend if you're like, oh, wait, I can't really stay up that late?
Yeah. Oh, what are you doing Sunday night? Oh, I'm going to sleep at 6. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
Just please, if you watch to the end of the show, just throw a little thank you comment for Brent and Bobby.
Yeah, because they make it super hilarious.
Yeah. All the jokes, all the times where they put my face onto some head of some,
Just one thing that you're supporting, for instance, with your Patreon money. We put this out as a podcast for those of you who are driving, right? And so we put it on Stitcher and iTunes and Spotify and all that. There's fees that we have to pay to get it onto all those platforms. And, Brent has to edit it and put it up there, and then we pay those fees. Like, those are services we couldn't do without your support.
Right.
So hopefully we're making it available. If you're listening right now on a podcast, hello. That's because of your support. So thank you.
And, we do try and make this show as good as possible every single week. And we haven't missed a week in 143 weeks. So we're really trying to be as consistent and as good as possible. And, Patreon support goes a long way. I didn't talk about any of the perks. The Patreon perks. Number 1, you get the Patreon bonus story. That's $1 a month. Number 2, $2 a month, you get the Patreon poll. So we will ask questions about
and we learned a lot of interesting information. This week we asked how many of you use HomeLink.
Right.
And I was pretty surprised by the numbers. And you can go read those numbers if you're a Patreon.
And the $3 level, you get the Discord, which I think is
the stupidest named thing ever.
It is really poorly named, but it's an amazingly powerful platform. Basically, we have about 500 people on the Discord right now, all able to communicate with each other on different topics. So that way, everything's all on a different topic. We're all able to communicate effectively. It's awesome, and it's insanely powerful. People are talking about, we have an electric surfboard.
Yeah, we have a community projects channel where people are talking about how to do great things. So, you got to get on that. And then just so many more T-shirts and posters, signed posters from us, mugs,
and all
hats.
These people here give for $5 or more a month, and they get a shout out as well as having their name on the end credits.
Yeah.
We do truly try and make it as worthwhile as possible. To be a patron, we appreciate it so much. All of you patrons out there are amazing.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Hit the like button. I don't know what the YouTube algorithm is doing these days. I think it more matters about what our thumbnail looks like.
Pretty soon they're going to be asking you at the end of the video to give it stars and to click a few buttons about what you found interesting or not interesting about it. And that's going to be pretty cool. I think that'll help. So we'll see.
We'll see. Who knows?
That helps share it with the world. We need to share and spread this message of sustainability, don't we?
And the YouTube algorithm is constantly changing. So I don't know. All right. Maybe
we got to get going, record one more show. So we'll say goodbye.
Thanks so much for watching.
Now you know.